Hey free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. So we need to talk a little bit about some of the potential problems in the future, especially with 3.1.7 coming around. So I have a total of 6 different problems or different worries that I want to share with you guys, and of course some of these came from a few of you who also shared the same sentiments. So the first problem that I want to talk about is to address the wish stone and what problems it might hold in the future. So the first potential issue is, would the wish stones carry forward from banner to banner? So in some of the gacha games out there, the wish stone equivalent does not always carry forward. So I think, like for example Dragala Lost, I'm actually not very sure about it. I kind of forgot the details, but I know some games do remove all of your wish stones once the banner is closed. So when the event is done, all your wish stones will disappear, for example. But for the case of Dislyte, I do not really think that the wish stones would disappear. If not, I feel like they would have already mentioned it early on, just so that they inform us about how important, you know, like for example, if you save your current SSMPT, you're gonna get some wish stones, right? So they should have at least mentioned what might happen to the wish stones if you do not use it in the next patch. The fact that they did not talk about it makes me feel like wish stones will carry forward, but of course we need to wait for further notice and further information in order to confirm this fact. But the second part that I want to talk about, which is relating to wish stones as well, is it's something that I actually missed out the first time. So let's take a look at the notice here. So this is the part that I'm talking about. So wish espers, players can choose 5 own legendary espers, not shimmer attuned or obtained from the Esper fusion. Draw one of them to get respective Esper material used for resonance in the new version. So the last time I actually mentioned a question that I had, or like a confusion that I had, which is, what's the point of having 5 legendary espers in the wish list if you can just select directly like who you want the extra Esper material for, right? So some of you guys raised it to me, and I think it's actually quite true. The way I feel like this works is you cannot actually choose the exact Esper that you want. You would only be able to gain one of the 5 espers that you have put into the list. So essentially this is not really a way for you to selectively reso specific espers. Yes, it is going to help you get your reso a little bit easier, but it's not going to be a matter of like, oh, I am going to R6 my guys instantly on day 1. It's not going to be the case. So this may or may not be a problem to some of you guys. So some of you who may not even be aware of this is potentially how it's going to work. So keep your eyes peeled on how this process works, okay? So moving forward, it is possible that the wish list is entirely random. And actually, I'm about 95% sure that it's going to be entirely random. But with that said, I don't really feel like it is going to be too much of a problem, because this is of course one way that we can ensure that the game becomes a little bit more balanced and whales don't necessarily get to R6 their favorite Esper instantly, or like, you know, the most meta Esper right now. So same goes for the fact that they did not include shimmer attuned Espers over here. So I hear like some of you guys are very upset about this and you want to have an opportunity to R6 your shimmer Esper, and I kind of get it, right? But at the same time, if you can R6 your shimmer Esper, it is incredibly disadvantageous to other players who do not have a shimmer Esper, for example. And I do not have a shimmer Esper, but I'm not too salty about it, to be honest. But I'm just thinking about the perspective of other free-to-play players out there, or maybe other players who are not lucky enough to get their hands on one of the legendary shimmer Espers. So this is potential issue number 2. Let's talk a little bit more about the more recent updates, right? So what I'm talking about is over here, Esper's acquisition adjustments. So the main issue right now is, what about Asenath, right? So we talked about how we can obtain Dahlia and Asenath from the Divine Sequencer shop. So some of you guys brought up a really good point, you know. Dahlia, yes, it is possible to obtain her pretty easily using like the blue currency in the Divine Sequencer shop, but what about Asenath? So there is this one potential issue, which is requiring the red crystals here in order to obtain Asenath, and this requires you to disassemble R6 legendary Esper. So as long as you have an R6 Esper and you get an extra copy of that dupe, that is how you get extra of these materials. And it is not clear what kind of material we need. Do we need the blue one, or do we need the red one over here? So of course, if Asenath just requires the blue crystals, this is extremely easy. You can just throw in all of your fodder and you would be able to get, you know, a whole bunch of these blue crystals. Super easy, right? Especially since you're going to increase the Goro Records drop rate. So hopefully this is the case. Hopefully they do not require you to consume these red crystals. If not, it is incredibly difficult to get Asenath copies. And the fourth thing that I want to bring up is, what about Sally, right? So some of you guys have asked me this question, which I probably have the answer for. So the question is, if I have already completed the spatial tower, what then about Sally? Am I still going to get a copy of Sally now that I've already gotten a copy of Lucas? So based on the past, right, if I'm extrapolating from the past, previously we had Donar as the spatial tower 100 clear reward, and before global launch they replaced Donar with Lucas. Now, did the rest of the beta players get Lucas? Nope, we did not get the free copy of Lucas. So I do suspect, going by that, they are not going to give everyone a free copy of Sally. Unfortunately, you're going to be stuck with Lucas, which kinda sucks because now Lucas is completely farmable. He will be a fusible Esper. So I'm about 99% sure that they are going to make Sally unobtainable to the rest of us, but we can still obtain her from the Echo via Go Records. We do not need to summon her through the SSMs anymore, which is slightly a sigh of relief. And now problem number 5 is going to be your Gap dupes. So now we can fuse Gabrielle, right? And a lot of us already have R6 Gabrielle, so it's like fully resoed, just we do not need an additional copy of her anymore. But if they do include her into the Echo, and we do pull extra copies of her, we are kind of like at a disadvantage because we are not going to get any Espers at all. We are just going to get an extra Shimmer record, which may or may not be a good thing. So the reason why it is not a good thing is obviously we would have gotten another Reso, for example, right? Or we could have gotten a brand new Esper as well. So I am missing quite a few Espers myself, and it would suck if I get an extra copy of Gabrielle, which I have no use for, apart from just converting it into an extra Shimmer record. And most of us don't really want a Shimmer record, we want a brand new legendary. Or some of us might even want to have extra Reso copies in case the Reso system becomes incredibly broken. But on the other hand, I do feel like it is still not such a bad thing because for players who have a lot of R6 Espers, this is actually one way for you to start farming Shimmer records a lot faster. So it's obviously more catered towards the whales. So if a player has full R6 Espers on their lineup, any single legendary Esper that they obtain is going to go directly into a Shimmer record. Which also means that having an R6 Gabrielle is not necessarily always a bad thing. You will eventually R6 her anyway, and you will eventually start farming Shimmer records this way. But of course, this is more of a bad thing than it is a good thing. That's for sure. Now the next point is Donar is in the shop, and this could potentially be bad for some players who have a very high Reso Donar. So personally for me, Donar is my highest natural Reso Esper. The only two R6 Espers that I have are the free ones, so Gabrielle and Everett. Yes, it kind of hurts that Donar is now a little bit more free to play and I'm not going to be able to be unique with my R5 Donar, for example, right? I'm not going to be able to stand out. But is this necessarily a bad thing? So now, like I said before, it might be possible to get extra copies of Donar via the, I think it was like the club shop, right? Or was it the tournament shop? I think it was the tournament shop. By buying more copies of Donar here, I might be able to just convert that into Shimmer records, which is possibly another way for me to acquire more Shimmer records in this free-to-play method via the tournament shop. And on the other hand, you will no longer get additional copies of Donar from the Echo, which may be a win for some of you guys as well. So I'm personally not too butthurt about it. I feel like this might be a good way for me to start farming Shimmer records in the future. Just buying the Donar pieces every single week, for example, and just farming more copies of him just to convert him into Shimmer records eventually. Now on to my 6th and final point, and that is going to be what's going to happen to SSMs. So we have SSMs in the tournament shop, we have SSMs in the cube shop, we have SSMs in the club shop as well, and we have SSMs in a bunch of places, like for example in the bounties as well. What about these items, right? Everything here is going to shift a bit. So for example for bounties, the drop spread is going to change a bit, which means that we are not going to be able to rely on whatever that we knew about the drop rates over here. And as for the shops, are they going to replace the SSMs with something else? Are they going to give us more Go records at a cheaper price maybe? Who knows, right? Because when they introduced the SSMs, they did not take away from our Go records in the first place. Which means that if they remove SSMs, are they just going to simply remove SSMs without giving us an additional Go records to purchase? I do not know, and I cannot say for sure, but what I'm quite certain is that they will, just because they mentioned in their patch notes or in the dev talk that they are going to increase the number of Go records that we can obtain. So I'm quite hopeful that we are going to be able to see more Go records in these 3 shops at least, right? And hopefully, you know what, hopefully they increase the drop rate of Go records in the bounties as well. This is something that I would like to see moving forward. So I know that a lot of you guys have complained that, wow, I'm getting more elemental records as opposed to Go records. You're not wrong. The drop spread does favor the elemental records collectively as opposed to Go records. So these are the 6 potential problems coming in 3.1.7, and as well as my opinion about it and what I feel about these problems. Anyway, let me know down in the comments below how you feel about it. What other issues do you think will surface in 3.1.7? Let me know down in the comments below. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up, it really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been Very Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.